The battle for Greenland. President Donald Trump using the power of tariffs to try and get his way. He says on February 1st he will impose 10% tariffs on NATO allies that have sent those military forces into Greenland. He plans to increase those tariffs to 25% on June 1st and keep them in place until the U.S. reaches a deal for Greenland. In fact, listen to this. This is UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer asked if he thinks the U.S. will resort to military action, which the president has floated as a possibility in order to get what it wants.
I don't, actually. I think that this can be resolved and should be resolved through calm discussion, but with the application of the principles and values that I've set out in terms of who decides the future of Greenland, and making clear that the use of tariffs in this way is completely wrong.
Completely wrong, he says. Let's go live to CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. She is at Mar-a-Lago. So, Olivia, you heard it there, one of many European leaders on tariffs and what the president says he will use and even escalate by June. So how does the administration defend tariffs on not only our trading partners, but people who are members of the NATO alliance?
Yeah, well, Reed, they were very upset this weekend, all of those European allies, once they saw President Trump's Truth Social post where he said if they don't help him in the acquisition of Greenland, he's going to put that 10% tariff on them starting on February 1st. The Trump administration says that this is relevant, that they need to do this because the president is ramping up his goal of acquiring Greenland. He says they need it for security purposes. Even in a separate Truth Social post, he said because of the Golden Dome, that's what he's linking this to. Because of the Golden Dome and the offensive and defensive weapons as a part of that, it is important for the U.S. to acquire Greenland. He said it's a highly complex system that can only work at its maximum potential and efficiency because of the angles and bounds if the land of Greenland is included. So that's why the Trump administration is saying this is necessary, that potentially ruining relationships with NATO allies and countries that the U.S. has long-standing relationships with, like the United Kingdom, is necessary because they believe the acquisition of Greenland is so important for the U.S.
So as we take a temperature on those relationships with those NATO nations, this was also interesting to me. The president sent a letter and then a text message to Norway's prime minister in which he essentially tied Greenland to him not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. We understand that that was not only sent in those channels, but in other channels so that the message could be crystal clear to other nations. What do you know?
Oh yeah, well, Reed, if it's any indication how upset the Europeans were, the Prime Minister of Norway shared this text message with the world that the president sent to him, where President Trump said that considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, plus I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace and can now think about what's good and prosperous for the United States of America. We also know, as you mentioned in that question, that the president sent this text message to the Prime Minister of Norway, but then this was spread through other national security channels to let other European allies know that the president is serious about the acquisition of Greenland from Denmark, and that he also believes that because he was not given the Nobel Peace Prize, that peace is not something he's putting as quite important anymore, and instead is willing to pursue this venture. He also added at the end of that statement that the world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. And as you can imagine, this has a pronounced impact on European allies. President Trump tomorrow is going to head to Davos, Switzerland, where he's actually going to see some of these European allies and leaders in person. And Reed, I suspect he will be feeling their anger later this week.
Olivia Rinaldi coming to us live from Florida. Thank you so much.